Hi, everyone. Hi, thank you for saying hi back. That's so good. It's good afternoon energy. But speaking of energy, I have been looking forward to this interview for so long. And these women blow me away. I know they're going to blow you away. We have two of the biggest tech female founders of our time sitting on this stage. And they are no joke. So we have Lucy Go, and by the way, they're both Forbes cover women, I guess we should say. So Lucy Go is the richest self-made female billionaire in the world, according to Forbes. And May runs an incredible tech company called Writer, which has also been on our Tech AI 50 company, tech startup, and both of them in their own right are just incredible leaders. And I know you're going to be really inspired by their stories. So both of them have been at this for quite some time. So it's kind of interesting, even though I'd say all of us are young, but you're both younger than I am. But you guys have literally been busting through walls and building for what now is really the future. Tell us about your story. Like, how did you guys literally get here? You want to start, Lucy?
Yeah, I guess I can start. I think I got here really by optimizing for learning everywhere in my life. So it really started off in kindergarten. I was extremely bored at school and I wanted to learn how to make money. So I quickly figured out by like trading up Pokemon cards and selling them, I was able to make cash. My parents ended up taking all that money from me. And then I wasn't really allowed to have friends. So I figured out like I was spending a lot of time on the internet, and then I wanted certain Neopets, and I found a forum where people were buying and selling rare Neopets, and I decided to learn how to code to basically hack the game and get these pets. Discovered PayPal really early on, and basically bought a Visa, debit card from Home Depot, made a PayPal account, and then just started making bots to hack this. Wasn't really spending that much time in school, but was learning on the internet, learning like HTML, CSS, PHP, etc., all the old coding languages to make these websites. So I started building internet marketing tools. Like I built one of the first Twitter bots out there that would like auto-follow, unfollow people. Sold to the internet marketers for like $10,000.
So wait, you have to say, like, how old were you when you were doing this? You are you're up here,
yeah,
and I'm here.
So I started the Neopets thing back in like second grade, and then I started making random websites from then on. I don't know how, but in like sixth grade, I convinced a bunch of like engineers and designers to work for me for free to create a virtual pet site. I wish I could do that nowadays, not happening. And then really, I went to college and I was going to these hackathons. I was learning about apps, and I learned about startups. And I was like, wow, I can actually build products that millions of people use. So I felt like I wasn't learning as much in college as I was at these hackathons, and I ended up dropping out. And then from there, like really every step of my career has been optimizing for learning. From like when I joined Snap because I wanted to learn more about product, and Evan Spiegel is probably like one of the best, I think he's one of the best product minds of this generation. I really learned to think ahead in the future and think larger. Like everyone thought Snap was just this pictures app, and he was really thinking like, how do I beat Amazon? How do I beat Google? And to this day, I like accidentally got dinner with him a few weeks ago. His vision from like 2016 on how we're going to interact with computers, he's still working on today. So good on him. And then I decided I wanted to build a company, and then I decided I wanted to go into venture and learn about like breadth versus depth, because I've been so focused. Like when you're building a company, you really go deep, right? But I wanted to learn about different industries, and now I'm in consumer because I think it's one of the hardest challenges, and I'm learning a lot there.
You are. All right, Meg. I don't know if it's Pokemon or getting Home Depot credit cards when you're 12, but give us a little of your story.
Similar theme in terms of starting really young. I had my first job in the family business when I was 8, and a big theme of my life across all of the various jobs I've had has been language. And I grew up in a non-English speaking household. I'm Lebanese, and as a firstborn immigrant child, you end up teaching everybody English because you learn it in kindergarten, and you learn pretty fast. And our first company, my co-founder and I, was in the machine translation space. I'd always been really interested in language, speak a bunch of languages, and the idea that we could really train models that could do translation and really use machine translation to break all these barriers that I had seen in my life. I mean, learning English and being good at it opened up so many doors that it just did not do for other members of my extended family. It was just very fascinating. I was always very attracted to that space. And when we started our first company in 2012, it was the era of statistical machine translation, and it was kind of insane. We had, different models for Japanese to English than English to Japanese, and it's just kind of crazy and mind-boggling today that we've got these incredibly powerful models that, yes, can translate, but also write code and develop and build images and all of that in the same model. And really the through line of my entrepreneurial life has been following and productizing on top of the technology. And, when we were working in machine translation, we stumbled upon transformers and started working on encoder decoders and then really stripping out the decoder. We're one of today 5 or 6 labs in the world that trains models from scratch. And it turns out, natural language isn't just for producing language. You are now able to really use language as the medium for intelligence. And by writing about it, we're having people build software and build tooling. And it's pretty incredible where this path has led us and led me. I've really just been following the technology and following language technology. But certainly, the entrepreneurial bug was in there early from family.
So the entrepreneurial bug, and I know you've both spoken about it, and again, first generation, immigrated from Lebanon. Lucy, your parents were immigrants. Do you think that had something to do with either just driving you or, wanting to take on risk or being risk adverse?
Yeah, I think a lot of the actual literature is that most immigrants are actually more risk averse. I think for me, it was like a go big or go home kind of mentality at all times. And, there was just nothing to lose and everything to gain. And I think I learned leverage much later. I want to teach that to my kids, my daughter especially, taking like these really big swings and levered bets very early and very big. I really learned that as an adult. Lucy, it seems like you learned it much younger. But doing what the crowd wasn't, I've always been very intentional about that. Like I remember being like a 6-year-old and not wanting to do what other people were doing because it just did not feel like the path to a highly levered outcome.
Yeah, I would say same. My parents are very risk averse. They wanted me to, just go to college, get a normal job. They actually wanted me to study pharmacy because they thought that was the most stable job possible out of college. And I would be able to be like a housewife because I would only have to work 3 days a week. I think why I am where I am today is because my parents and those around me never really believed in me, and I was a bit of a rebellious child. So I felt the need to prove them wrong. And it's just my brother is so much smarter than me in every single way from an IQ standpoint. He skipped several grades in math, was taking AP Calc BC back in elementary school, and I was this kid that maybe tested to skip 1 grade in math. Yay! So it was just constant. My environment was telling me you can't do this, and honestly, part of the reason I dropped out was to piss my parents off. To be I know it sounds ridiculous. I was I'm going to prove you wrong, because you don't think I can succeed without a college degree. I'm going to show you that I can.
It's so amazing too, and as we think about it, I know we've heard so much today, so many people talking about, encouraging either our daughters or, mentoring young women into fields that women typically haven't been in. And so whether that's engineering and coding, and now certainly both of you at the helm of AI and your companies that you've built, what can we do to make sure that women, your daughter, my daughters, maybe your future to be, Lucy, do not miss out on this next revolution, which we clearly have for the past, at least my whole career, which has been over 30 years.
And the early data isn't good.
No.
The vast majority of people who are using ChatGPT are men. The vast majority of people who work in AI are men. I think for the last 100 years, we've built companies to organize pretty labor-intensive execution, and that is about to change. Departments, hierarchies, complex processes, AI really disrupts a lot of that, and it makes execution abundant and on-demand and programmatic. And when you think about the kind of leadership that's required to lead in that way, lead in a way that's not clinging to hierarchy, but actually much more open, much more collaborative, women are really good at that. And I think we serve the enterprise, half the Fortune 500 are customers. This is like, a very, very important time for leaders in the enterprise to get this, not just digital transformation right, it's much more than that. This is a fundamental reorganization of the enterprise. And women have to lead because there's a vacuum from leaders who are thinking too much of the old era and not really bringing the right tools to what's required for real AI transformation. And, we want to both at the junior levels create jobs we'd be proud for our children to have, and also create environments where, women leaders can really bring out, right, what is much more collaborative and much more creative, I think, skills than have been associated with leadership in the past.
Yeah, I would say historically, most founders have been men, but this has changed over time. And as more female founders are exiting, we're seeing female funds pop up. AngelList has essentially democratized starting a fund. So nowadays we see tons of LPs investing in female GPs, which then invest in female founders. I definitely agree that companies no longer need as much staff. Creativity and empathy are going to be much more valued as certain jobs become automated. There's so much talk, and I believe it will be true one day, that one-person companies can become unicorns now. The cost to start a company is lower because you can use AI to essentially hire a mid-level, entry-level designer, marketer. Honestly, I use AI to save on legal costs by having it draft documents that might not be 100% legally enforceable, but they're good enough contracts. So, and as this happens, so there's this flywheel happening where more women are getting funded, but also they're able to do more with less funding.
Yeah. And I think what I love about you guys, and I did go deep on some podcasts that both of you were interviewed on, and as you're talking about AI and making it accessible, explaining it so clearly where it's on the tip of everyone's tongues and they're talking in all these acronyms that I can't keep up with, that a lot of people, it's changing. I feel penalized going to bed at night, that I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, there's 5 more newsletters that I didn't read that now I need to be an expert on.
You can have AI.
Thank you. But I think for you guys, what I've noticed is that you're so obsessed with your customers, and that, again, AI will help that, but you're going into the field, you're talking to your customers, you're, with passes, with your new company, you're getting on with your creators all the time, you're creating tools, you're creating products. That is still going to be at the heart of business, and why women are so good at leading that, because we listen, we want to solve the problems, we want to get in there. But tell me why, you are obsessed.
Yeah, there's an equity part of this that really drives me. Equity was a big reason why I initially started a machine translation business. I wanted to make it much more equitable for folks who did not speak English to do whatever they wanted to do. And I think AI has the potential to massively increase inequity in society if we don't address it really quickly. And what's awesome about getting to grow an enterprise AI company is we get to do this on our own terms and really think about the social impact we want to have. Yes, we are changing the construct of a company, and there will be fewer junior jobs, but those junior jobs were my ladder when I was gaining the networks and the ability to fundraise and build a company. And I shudder to think about what happens if we don't create new ladders. Those jobs aren't going to come back. When we sign up in an investment bank, there will be fewer junior banking jobs, but how do you create senior bankers if you don't have junior bankers? And I think we've got a real responsibility to create those new ladders, right, in the era of AI. And so we show up. We are on the road constantly. We sit in our customers' offices, and we leave no user behind. We make sure everybody picks up these skills.
That's great.
Yep. I believe every creator is an entrepreneur. We've seen brands be built just based off someone's audience. I think it started off with Kylie Jenner with our lipstick brand, and we saw Mr. Beast with Feastables, Logan Paul with Prime, etc. And I also saw a problem in the creator industry where managers and agencies were essentially taking advantage of them. They didn't understand the value of equity, so they were actually encouraging these creators to take much worse brand deals when really they should be getting equity in companies, because if their audience is driving the marketing, so these brands didn't have to spend money on customer acquisition, like they're the reasons the brands are alive, right? So I decided that I wanted to focus on really helping these creators build businesses and really understand what it means to own something. I think that like with AI as well, it's going to help reduce that need for the management layer. Like if you think about it, AI is going to be able to learn the creators' like wants and needs. Like eventually we'll get the AI agents that can negotiate for a creator, understand like, oh, this brand makes sense. I think the future is creators licensing out their likeness to brands. And this is all stuff that like there may be, you know, a manager still there to build the relationship and close the contract, but at the end of the day, they'll be able to take a much larger percentage, so more money goes into the creator. Already we have these AI agents we're working on that help creators like A/B test captions. It automates the pricing for them, and they've been able to 3x their earnings when they use AI to understand the pricing models for their content, et cetera. So I'm really excited to see how it's affecting creators directly and like really helping them grow their online businesses.
It's amazing. And we talk about venture, we know that the stats are not good right now, right? We know for female funders, female founders in tech, female VC, it's tough out there. So what's your optimistic point of view on how we can change that narrative, and especially in tech?
I think female funders is really important, but their funds are all much, much smaller. But Jennifer Fonstad wrote me our first check for Writer, an incredible investor. Then Broadway Angels, another female group out of San Francisco, right, contributed, and it kind of snowballed, right, and created that first seed round for us. And I think it is so important to have women who can write checks, but we need women who can write big checks, and you need really, really big checks in AI. And that really helps for sure. And, you know, I think for us, we've got just incredible investors now, from Iconic to Insight, that back the company. And, you know, those were men who wrote the checks. But we've got women who are on the board. And, you know, folks come into our board meetings and they're like, why is your board so big? And I'm like, well, there are a lot of observers because the observers are women, and I want a lot of women to be associated with like our success. And I know that that is what's going to allow them to get a full board seat on their next company and go from a junior partner to a senior partner. And so, you know, just all of us bringing all of us along is such a huge part of gaining even some semblance of parity in this crazily gendered environment that we're in.
Yeah, I think subconsciously, let's stop. Yeah, I do think subconsciously women are held to higher standards for funding than men, which is why female-founded companies have better outcomes. I do think that the problem lies with these larger checks, where if we can get LPs writing larger checks, like anchor checks into female-led funds, the situation may change. That, or if you're doing like a party round, it is possible to raise a large round when you're doing a party round, but a lot of these female founders don't know where to find all these micro funds. Like there's not really a great centralized place for that. So the answer probably just lies in more LPs, funding female-led funds, and being able to write those large checks.
All right, we're out of time. I could sit with these women for like hours, and I wish you guys could as well. But just like 2 words of advice, if you were talking to someone who was, I mean, maybe she's not 5 coding and getting PayPal cards, but like, what would you say to them right now? Like, what would be imperative to say, this is really important, and I want you, someone I care about, I love, to know this about what's happening for the future of women in business?
Well, don't have friends. I mean, clearly it works, right?
have strict parents.
No friends.
Well, folks ask me all the time, like, what are the skills that people need, and what should my kids study in school? And, I kind of joke and I'm like, writing, English, like, and it is that thinking deeply, right? When execution becomes abundant, when AI can do the vast majority of what we all do today, right? What really rises above is taste, is judgment, is character, is collaboration, is creativity, and those are the things that we really want to kind of inspire our kids to do. But banning AI or not using AI, I mean, this is life, right? Like, get it in front of your kids, get them using the technology. It's just a tool, and everything else becomes that much more important.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I usually say we're all born with advantages and disadvantages. And my piece of advice is it may feel like the world is against you, but just suck it up. I do think that once you build a resume where you can't refute that this woman is actually a phenomenal engineer, a phenomenal product designer, et cetera, that's when it becomes actually easier to get funding. I think that, like I said earlier, subconsciously, women are held to higher standards, but everyone still wants the fun woman. So when you are able to become irrefutably, like you're irrefutably talented, I think you become the hottest ticket in town. I think everyone wants to fund you then, and life really does get easier afterwards.
Well, we have two of the hottest tickets in town here, so thank you guys so much. Thank you so much.